I really enjoyed the original release of Sniper Elite VR, and gave it quite a glowing review on this very channel. There was a huge sense of relief for me that a flat game series that I enjoyed so much had been treated with respect and played well in VR. It wasn't perfect, but it was on the whole well wrought and enjoyable. Rather like the flat Sniper Elite series, it didn't overreach and try and reinvent the genre. It set modest expectations and exceeded them. And now the sequel is upon us. Winter Warrior has somehow evaded our early warning radar system, snuck past our sentries, and made its way onto the Metastore without managing to make much of a stir. So, will it knock us out and make off with the coveted 9? Or will we be sprinting for the alarm button, trying to warn everyone off it? Let's get it in our sights. There's a sense of familiarity upon loading Sniper Elite Winter Warrior. Menus look and sound the same. The narrator and protagonist remains from the original VR release, an amiable elderly Italian partisan reminiscing about his time as a crackshot sniper in the Second World War.
Do we have to put up with this? I mean, can't we get a better actor? I know it's a small part, but I think we can do better than this.
Gordon Street.
In the first outing, he related his tales from the sunlight-dappled delights of his garden, in which his young family frolic and enjoy the freedoms he shot millions of people in the ballsack in slow motion for. This time he starts in bed, and there's a blizzard outside, snowing him in, which makes him remember the snow levels he didn't mention last time. After a brief and effective tutorial firing range, which you can mercifully leave without completing if you're starting another save or simply can't be bothered, we're dropped into the first level proper. Well, ish. It's still actually a tutorial, and pretty narrow in scope. No pun intended for once. It's business as usual. Sneak, snipe, use sounds in the environment to cover your shots, kill everyone, and plant a bomb, and then get to the exit. You know the drill. Perhaps too well. Let's get to the good stuff first. A lot of the nice things I said in my review of the original 2 years ago are still true. The sniping is surprisingly intuitive and effective. The amusing slow-motion bullet kill cam is intact and well realised, and the graphics are largely lovely. Sound is good. There's a core to the gameplay that is inarguably fun. If you were a big fan of the original Sniper Elite VR, you pretty much know what to expect. Winter Warrior provides more of it. Mostly. Sort of. I can't help but feel let down and decidedly uninvested in this sequel. Despite it being standalone, this never really feels like a sequel. To be fair, it's half the price of the original, and was probably conceived as additional levels, more than a full game in its own right. And this shows. For a start, there's a pervasive tiredness about the game, like it's going through the motions. The partisan starts in bed, and never really gets out of it. Music cues, assets, animations, and sounds are reused from the first game. Missions should feel like playgrounds of possibility, but in actual fact, they're a staid and workmanlike series of checkpoints and triggered events. In some, there's a surprising lack of emphasis on stealth and, would you believe, sniping. Limited enemy numbers mean that once you've killed a few, you can expect that a completed objective will give the game a reason to spawn more in, sometimes in an alerted state, no matter how stealthy you may have been up to that point. There are letters from home collectibles scattered around the levels, but none of them can be read. It's just busy work, not additional context. There are challenges to complete in each level, which genuinely add some fun and replayability, but once again this idea is regurgitated from the original, so it's to be expected. The deja vu is strong, yes, but there's more than that, contributing to the hollow feel of the game. Sniper Elite VR nailed some core experiences and basics that other titles like Medal of Honor and Onward didn't. It felt like there was a lot riding on it, and it quelled many of those fears confidently. The relief of that for me meant that I could overlook a bit of jank here and there because it had a lot of heart. The sequel, however, does nothing to advance itself, and it suddenly feels dated. The lack of pleasing VR interactions is utterly grating, and reveal the laziness and lack of ambition that plagues the experience. Handguns cannot be held with both hands. Door handles, keys, switches, satchel chargers and the like are operated by reaching a hand out into the right place and holding down a grip button until a bar fills up. This is flat game bullshit that has no place in VR and completely breaks the immersion. You don't feel like an elite sniper just waving a pointing finger in the air and waiting for a charge to appear or a door to open. These interactions are so important for VR, and we want and deserve better. The chef Michel Roux famously used to ask potential students to crack an egg for him. If they showed some natural aptitude for that, he reasoned, then he said he could teach them anything. Well, I feel much the same way about VR games showing me how they deal with keys in a lock or opening cupboards. If this feels good and intuitive, then the rest of the game may just have the right attention to detail to be a winner. Here, those things are entirely lacking, and definitely hurt the quality of the final product. Reloading and charging guns were nailed in the first installment. Now where's the rest of the game? The remote pull for ammo and objects has a fiddly and inconsistent reach and radius with no sense of weight. Enemy animations are basic and staccato, making reading their body language and therefore the levels annoying at times. The enemies just don't seem enough like combatants, just paper marionettes waiting to be decommissioned. One thing I wasn't expecting to dislike about Winter Warrior so much was the character of the partisan himself. Well, there's nothing wrong with the acting per se. The structure of having him narrate the action as a series of memories means that the affable old man persona never lets up. Everything he's given to say has the tone of an advert for authentic pasta sauce, without ever really conveying the urgency of the situation the player is in. When he says, "Nazi wonder weapons," for example, it's like he's selling them as magical toys, not terrified that they might blow the world to pieces. Remember that bit in Lord of the Rings where Gandalf suddenly drops the genial grandpa act and lets slip that he's actually a terrifying and powerful ancient soul who has the weight of the world on his shoulders?
Do not take me for some conjurer of cheap tricks.
I feel like this never happens for the partisan, and a potentially interesting narrative about a lovable, friendly old chap actually confronting the bit of himself that was a super assassin who'd killed hundreds of men just evaporates into a cloud of whimsy. It would be great if, while I'm peering down the scope of a sniper rifle at my next victim, the voiceover matched the mood, rather than making me think I should be tucked under a tartan blanket falling asleep in front of Countdown. A lazy trudge instead of a thrill ride, Sniper Elite VR Winter Warrior is a gelid lump of a game that somehow manages to detract a little from the original whilst using most of its assets and gameplay. We need more than this. In a promising season of releases that surprise and delight in the quality of their feel and their interactions, Winter Warrior sticks out entirely as a tired rehash. Yes, it isn't as expensive as the original, but half the price doesn't excuse it from being lackluster. It's still better than the Aspire series, though. Overall, 6. Frigid. What do you think of the game? What do you think of our review? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoy our content, please press like on this video and subscribe to our channel. It really does help, and we really want to bring you more content.